the new name was Operation what?
It's going to be our COVID response.
All right, our COVID response. Thank you so much, Sir Rick. We really appreciate seeing you.
Okay. I am here.
Great. I don't see Mr. Hurd yet.
I'm here, Your Honor.
Oh, you're here. Okay.
Your camera isn't on, Steve.
It is on my screen. How about now? Can you see me now?
Yes, I can. Yes. All right. We're going to begin as we do not have a lot of time this afternoon. So the petitioner has concluded its presentation of their evidence. Now it's the respondent's turn. Mr. Hurd, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. The respondent's called David Santoro. I believe he's on.
Yeah, I'm here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Santoro.
I can't see you.
David, speak a little bit.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you. This is Judge Perry.
Here, let me try this again. How about now?
Oh, you're coming. Oh, yes, I can see you now. Yes.
All right.
Okay, great. Mr. Santoro, who do you work for?
Hold on, Mr. Hurd. I've got to swear him in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Too excited.
That's okay. We all are. Mr. Santoro, do you swear or affirm that you will tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in the hearing of this matter, sir?
I do.
Would you please say your name and spell your name and your address for the record?
Yeah. David Santoro, D-A-V-I-D. Last name Santoro, S-A-N-T-O-R-O. My address is 2 Broadway, room 829.10, New York, New York, 10004.
Before you begin, Mr. Hurd, I just want to make this announcement. I am still hearing people speaking, so if you're not speaking, please mute your phone. Thank you.
Mr. Santoro, who do you currently work for?
I work for New York City Transit,
And what is your title?
Chief Stations Officer.
And as the Chief Stations Officer, what are your responsibilities?
I'm responsible for the stations department, which encompasses about 6,000 employees, which are our CTAs, our station agents, our maintenance employees, and various other departments with the stations.
And so in that role, do you oversee the station agents?
Yes.
And do you make determinations as to staffing of the station agents?
Yes.
And when we say station agents, what positions are encompassed by that title?
So the station agents would encompass, we talked about the 5-day jobs that cover the booths, the 5 days, the RDO jobs, the extra positions, and also the vacation reliefs. We also do have station agents that are in other positions, resume jobs, and they work in various departments, timekeeping, and other things like that.
Okay, we'll go through those briefly. But first, I wanted to ask, how many station booths are there in the entire system?
There's 469 station booths.
Okay. And is there any plan to eliminate any station booths effective January 31st, 2021?
No,
And is there any plan to change the operating hours of any station booth at January 31st, 2021?
no.
Okay. And what are the operating hours of a station?
The majority of the station booths are 24 hours a day. On the new pick, the station agents are going to start 7 to 3, 3 to 11, and then 11 to 7 on the overnights. We do have about 24 booths that are part-time. They only work 16 hours out of the day, and the overnights, the rest of the 8 hours, that booth is closed.
Okay.
Would you hold on just a moment? Mr. Kelly, I can hear your room. I don't think you're on mute. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
Currently, before the changes go in effect on January 31st, Mr. Santoro, when a station agent goes, who's working in a booth goes on lunch, how are they covered?
So currently, if a station agent is in the booth for an 8-hour period, we've got the lunch reliefs. They start at a specific location, and then they will travel to, let's say,
No, I'm sorry, you blocked out. For an 8-hour period,
Yeah, for an 8-hour period, the station agents in the booth will remain there, and they're scheduled for a 30-minute lunch. And so we have the lunch relief that will start at a specific station. They will be traveling, let's say, 5-6 stations to give the station agent in the booth their 30-minute lunch period. So that's what the lunch relief station agent is currently doing.
Okay. And when a station booth agent has what's called a regular day off, what is that?
That would be their RDO. It's a scheduled day off that they would have in the pick.
And then who covers their station when they're on their RDO?
We have the Rdo Relief Pool, so that group of employees that pick the Rdo Relief are going to do the other 2 days. So if someone works Monday through Friday, which is the original 5-day job, we will have an RDO cover the other 2 jobs, Saturday and Sunday, for that booth. And then they'll go to another booth to do the other 2 days of coverage, and then so on with the last day. So that's what the RDO pick jobs are for.
Okay. And then if a station agent goes on vacation, who relieves them?
We also have in the pick book a vacation relief group. They would pick those jobs, and then they would pick the vacation weeks. You know, every couple weeks they would go out and put a bid, and they would bid on which vacations that they would like to cover, and that's how that vacation relief job works.
And then there's a job that we talked about this morning called extras. What do extras do?
So an employee that picks an extra job, they basically fill in any sick, any long-term sick, any AVAs, any time an employee is not going to be in that booth, we turn to the extras to replace that individual. If it's training or whatever the reasons are, death in family, various things like that.
Okay. If you could take a look at Respondents Exhibit 1, I believe you have a copy of it.
Okay.
You don't have that in front of you.
The station agent manual?
No, not petition. It's
Thank you.
our exhibit. It's the spreadsheet of overtime.
I got it out. Yes.
Got that in front of you?
Yes.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this document is what OSAC uses. OSAC is our crew management center that fills any jobs that people call in sick. They'll reach out to the extras, fill any vacancies. That's what the OSAC center does. And so we also keep track of any booths that are on overtime.
Okay, and is this a document that is created in the normal course of the business of the stations?
Yes.
And is it then maintained in your offices at the Transit Authority?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move to admit Respondents Exhibit 1.
No objection.
Supports? All right, so moved.
Now, Mr. Santoro, I want to take you through this. First of all, can you tell from this what month this is referring to?
Yeah, it's titled December of 2020.
Okay.
It's the way that they save it. It's in the saved PDF portion or the saved Excel spreadsheet of it.
Okay. And you'll see there's a thing at the top, very top, that says AM tour. What does that refer to?
So that AM tour is for the station agents. If you see on the left of the screen, it says S/A daily count. That's for the station agents that report on the AM tour.
Okay. And then there's another blue box at the bottom that says CTA. What daily zone count? What is that?
So that CTA daily zone count is for our cleaners.
Yeah, see, you see that one says easy pay?
Somebody's not on mute.
Exactly the same,
Sorry.
except no easy pay one.
Somebody's not on mute.
Okay?
It's Mr. Robinson, Artisha, Odom, that's his speaking.
Oh, wow, we get very close.
I'll mute
Yeah,
him.
as long as they're
Okay.
Okay.
Where were we at?
Can you repeat what the CTA daily zone count is?
Yeah, so we track the overtime also for the CTAs. Those are our cleaners that work in the stations. And we also track the overtime using the spreadsheet.
Okay, so let's focus on the top part, which deals with the station agents. You see there's, at the very top, there's a group of numbers, and it goes sequentially, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see that?
I do.
What do those indicate?
So this is for the month of December 2020, and those numbers represents the day of the month. So 1, 2, December 1st, December 2nd, and so on.
Okay, and on December, let's focus on December 1st, which is the left column. The number below that is 11, and next to it is AVA, PLD, VAC. Can you explain what that 11 number indicates?
Wait, I'm looking at the wrong page. This is on what, AM tour, PM tour?
AM tour, yes.
All right. I can't get to it. Just give me a second. I have to reopen this. It's not working.
While we're here, Mr. Hurd, I lost my connection with the large file code key. So I now can't get back into your large file.
Would you like us to send it to you again?
Yes, please.
Aaron, can you do that for us, please?
Yeah. Judge, I'm just going to go out and come back in because I'm only getting one person at a time
Okay,
viewing.
go ahead.
I'll be right. Okay, that's better. Thank you.
I'm just having trouble getting this open. Darn it.
Do you have it, Your Honor?
I have it. I'm just pressing send nasties. Should be coming shortly.
I don't have your code yet.
I've just, Your Honor, I've just resent the documents again
Okay.
to the same email address that was sent last night to the
Okay.
SFC Part 23 email
Okay.
address.
Okay.
Should be coming shortly. Let me know if you get it.
Thank you very much. I'll let you know if I don't. How about you, Mr. Schwartz? Are you able to see the document?
I'm trying to see. Okay, so AM tour, does it start with the letter N on the top? Or I have to...
No, you're too far down the line. You just need to
I have to... It starts with the number 1, and then does that have a 6 under it?
No, that's not the AM tour.
Because when I click AM tour...
You might not be in the December file.
Tell me how to... I have a tab at the bottom for AM tour, PM tour, and night tour.
Right. And the AM tour should start with the number 1 and then a number 11 underneath it.
Oh, okay. Okay, now I got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Your Honor, are you all set? Judge?
You're on mute, Judge.
I was on mute because an ambulance just passed by. Okay, you guys go ahead.
You're all set? Okay. So, David, if we could go back to that document, the number 1 at the top, I believe you testified that means December 1st?
Correct.
Okay, and you were explaining what the number 11 below it means.
So we allow employees typically to have we cap out at 25 employees per tour per day for any AVAs or any day off requests. And so this is how we kind of keep track of our overtime. So out of the 25 employees that we allowed, let's say that day to take, the day off, 11 of those are on overtime. So that 11 booths are on overtime on December 1st for any employees taking any AVAs or any PLDs.
And does overtime mean that
The
they're,
last thing, or any ABAs or what?
The PLDs,
Dale did, okay.
yeah, PLD personal leave days.
that means personal leave days?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and when you say that those booths are on overtime, what do you mean?
So that means the station agents in those 11 booths are not being filled by the extras because we didn't have any extras to fill those positions. So those 11 positions are all on.
Okay.
They are.
All on,
Can you hear me, Karen?
all on. I mean, it cut out. They are all on what?
So those 11 individuals that are working those particular booths, they're typically scheduled for an 8-hour period, which is their normal 8-hour day. Because there is no reliefs to relieve them, their 8-hour day will be extended to a 16-hour day. So basically they're doing a double.
And David, you had testified earlier that the extras covered when somebody was absent like that, right?
Correct.
So why did these people need to be on overtime and not have an extra come in and replace them?
We have exhausted all of our resources to fill those positions, and that's when we have to keep people over. So if you don't have enough extras to fill those positions, the station agents in those particular booths will be required to stay over.
And if you go a little further down in that same column, there's an entry sick, and it has a number 15. What does that mean?
That means out of all of the employees that called in sick, 15 of those jobs resulted in 15 station agents on overtime.
Okay. And is that because you didn't have any extras to cover them?
Correct.
So if you go down to the red numbers on the bottom, that number 41, what does that represent?
So the 41, that is the total number of booths that are on overtime for that day. So December 1st, 2020, for the AM tour, we had 41 booths doing basically the double, a 16-hour day.
So you had used all your extras at that point?
Correct. We use all available employees at that on the extras to fill those jobs.
Okay. And once you had used all your extras, there were still 49 slots that need to be filled that couldn't because you didn't have anybody?
Correct.
Okay. And if we go across on that red line, it appears that you have quite a few booths that are people doing double shifts because you don't have enough extras to cover them. You see that?
Yes, correct. So like December 1st, there was 41. December 2nd, it was 47. December 3rd, it was 60. And that number fluctuates depending on the day.
Do you always typically run out of extras each tour?
Yes.
And in those cases, you then have to pay overtime to the booth, the station agents that are there?
Correct.
And is this a typical month or is December unique?
This is a typical month.
Okay.
I mean, it fluctuates, but typically we're always having somebody on overtime.
Okay. And you typically run out of extras?
Yes.
And how much does that cost the Transit Authority over the course of the year in overtime?
We're looking at about $18 million, $19 million a year just on overtime alone.
And if you had enough extras to cover that, would that prevent the problem or at least lessen the problem?
It would definitely reduce that amount of overtime coverage.
Okay. So as a result of this overtime issue that we just went through that is happening month to month, did you decide to make a change to the staffing of the station booths beginning on January 31st, 2021?
Yeah, looking at the numbers and taking in consideration the financial issues and the crisis that we're in, we looked at the lunch release as an option to remove off the PIC, and that will increase the extra pool.
And can you explain that a little further? You said to move the lunch relief off the PIC. What does that mean?
So what we did is we eliminated all of the lunch relief positions, and we moved that head count over, and we put them in the extra slots. So we did not reduce head count. We did not lay anybody off. It was purely moving the PIC and the seniority, the head count over from the one location to another. That resulted in 0 layoffs with station agents.
And how is that going to help address the overtime issue, moving the lunch relief folks to extra positions or elsewhere in the stations?
This will give us the flexibility and the ability to cover more of the vacancies using the extras, and this will help reduce the overtime. So,
for example, we were looking at the Exhibit 1, the spreadsheet, and you said on December 1st of 2020 there were 41 folks or 41 stations that the people had to work overtime because there weren't enough extras. Would now, with the lunch relief people doing the extra role, would that help alleviate those 41?
Yes.
How so?
If we looking at the extras from the 2020 PIC versus the 2021 PIC, you can see the extra pool increased. We could look at the AM tour. So the AM tour on the 2020 extra pool was 72. We increased that from 72 on the 2021 to 134. Is how many people are now going to be on the extra pool for the AM tour.
I see. And why didn't you just hire more extras rather than eliminate the lunch relief role?
In the beginning of 2020, we were hiring station agents, but when the memorandum came out that we had a hiring freeze, we were not able to hire any station agents.
Okay, if you could look at Respondents Exhibit 2, which is an April 21st, 2020 memo from Patrick Foy. You have that in front of you?
I do.
Do you recognize that document?
I do.
What is it?
This is a memo from the chairman and CEO, Pat Foy, to everybody at Transit and the MTA, letting us know there's an absolute hiring freeze.
And is that a document that Mr. Foy distributed in the regular course of business at the Transit Authority and the MTA?
Yes.
And then did you maintain it in your offices at the Transportation Authority?
Yes.
I move for the admission of Respondents Exhibit 2, Your Honor.
No objection. No objection.
So moved.
Now, if we look at Exhibit 2,
Name Patrick Boyd. I'm sorry, Patrick Boyd, B-O-Y-D? What is it?
F-O-Y-E.
F-O-Y-E, thank you.
Now, looking at Respondents Exhibit 2, David, it appears that the hiring freeze went into effect on March 16th, 2020. Do you see that?
Yes.
And what did that hiring freeze, what does that mean with respect to the station agents?
So with that hiring freeze, that means that we are not able or allowed to hire any station agents within stations.
Okay. And does that mean no one across the Transit Authority can hire anyone, or just at stations?
In order to get approved for any hiring, it would have to fall under certain criteria, which would be, it says right here, on a critical business need, that we would have to give this, whatever the headcount that we're trying to hire to, we would need to justify it to the president's office and also the chief people officer. So any hirings would need to be approved through them.
And the station agent role or extra role, that wouldn't be considered a critical business need?
No.
Can you give us an example of what a critical business need would be?
A critical business need would be, I know that they hired some bus operators. That would be a critical hire need. We would need a bus operator to move the public. And if we don't have bus operators, therefore we're not moving our customers. So that would be a critical hire need.
I see. Okay. So you couldn't hire anyone, and in what situations would you hire people?
We would hire, on the course of normal attrition. If someone retires, leaves on their own accord, gets terminated, whatever the reasons are that reduces our head count, that would be the cause for us to hire.
So under normal circumstances, before the hiring freeze, assuming you weren't at your head count, you could hire more people when someone quits or dies or retires?
Yeah, correct. Normally, we could do that type of hiring.
Okay. And as a result of not being able to hire people, did the number of station agents or people filling those roles within the stations, did that decrease from 2020 to 2021?
It did. It decreased by 63.
Okay. And those were all people who had left due to either retiring or dying or resigning?
Correct.
Okay. Did the elimination of the lunch relief role result in any reduction in the number of station agents or people in that role?
No, it did not.
And did anyone get laid off or lose their job as a result of the lunch relief shift to extras and other roles within the station?
No.
Okay. And are there less jobs now as a result of the change in the lunch relief role?
There is not less jobs on the PIC due to the elimination of the lunch relief.
Okay. So I'd like you to take Respondents Exhibit 3 and Respondents Exhibit 4 and put them next to each other so that we can compare the two as we go.
Your Honor, could I have a second so I could just put them in front of me in hard copy, all right? Just a second.
Certainly.
Okay.
Okay. So, Mr. Santoro, these are already in evidence, but I'll ask you if you recognize Respondents Exhibits 3 and 4.
I do.
And what are they?
So when we start creating the PIC books and management starts working with the PIC unit, we go over the jobs and making sure that the incumbents match the amount of jobs that are on the PIC. And this summary sheet is one of the things that we utilize to make sure that every incumbent has a position on the PIC, because we don't want to have more incumbents and not enough jobs on the PIC. So we look at this and making sure that, like I said, everybody's got a spot on the PIC book.
Okay. So if you take a look at the winter PIC of 2020, Respondents Exhibit 3, and the first box there, it says agents picking 2,542. What does that represent?
So that number of the agents picking, that is the number of employees, of station agents that will be picking in the pick book, is at 2,542.
Now, earlier this morning, we looked at a seniority list for 2020 that listed 2,767 individuals who were eligible to pick. Was it the result that 200 and some odd people weren't able to get a job?
No, so every February, the pick unit creates the seniority roster. And with that seniority roster, we'll have every station agent within transit that's current employee. And so they create that seniority pick book every February. And the people...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No problem. And the individuals that are in other jobs, if the station agent is working in a resume position, they could be doing timekeeping or working in material control or with RTO. Those individuals will be pulled out of the pick numbers because they are not actively picking. Typically, people that are not going to pick will sign a document stating that they are not going to be a part of the pick. And so those individuals will be removed from the pick. Also, if people have retired, passed away, or whatever the reasons are that they're no longer active, those employee numbers will come out of that pick. So that's why you'll see the change from the 2767 down to the 2542. So all active employees and employees that are eligible to pick will be on this sheet, and that represented the 2542 for the winter pick of 2020.
I see. Okay. And then if you go in staying on Respondents Exhibit 3, then there's a list of the jobs that we were talking about, station jobs, lunches, EEU. Do you see those?
Yes.
And what are the numbers in the gray boxes of those indicate?
So those numbers in the gray boxes will indicate, like the first line, you've got station jobs. Those are the 5-day jobs, the ones that are in the booths, and that equal to 1353 jobs on that pick book for that time. And it just goes on to show the lunches, 185 for the AM, the PM, and the night tour. And then it will list the vacation relief jobs. At this time, there's 180. The RDO reliefs were sitting at 614. And then you've got the extras that were at 217. For me, the only thing that matters in this document, number 3 and 4, is that all of those numbers below the agent's picking matches that 2542. It doesn't matter if I move people from the lunches, that if I move the 185 jobs from the lunches and I move them over to the extras, as long as there's a spot for everybody to pick and those numbers matched at 2542, everybody has a job to pick.
And if you look at the bottom black box, it says station agents picking. That's the 2542 that we already talked about.
Correct.
It says total jobs is the 2551. Is that all the different categories of jobs that someone could pick?
Yeah, so what we did here is we're trying to determine if we've got the right amount of jobs on the pick to match the incumbents. So in the winter of 2020 on exhibit number 3, if you look at the bottom, it says we have 9 jobs over. That means we have 9 too many jobs on the pick, so we will have 9 vacancies right off the bat. So that's what that 9 represents, and this is what we use to make sure those numbers match up for the employees that are picking.
Okay. Now, if we could move over to Respondents Exhibit 4, is that the same summary for the 2021 pick?
Yes.
Okay. And under agents picking, it says there's now 2479. Do you see that?
Yes.
So from 2020's winter pick to the 2021 winter pick, the number of agents picking went down by 63 people, right?
Correct.
And what is the cause of that?
That would be attrition, retirement, death, whatever the reasons are that would have an employee, not be eligible to pick. Maybe there's someone that took a resume position. All of those factors that we talked about earlier, how the seniority list is created, will impact that number.
And does
So
it also have anything to do with the hiring freeze that was put in place in 2020?
Yeah, so us not being able to hire after that, the memo went out in April, that is going to impact the incumbents. So we did lose 63 incumbents during that time.
Okay. Did the changing of the lunch relief rule, did that have any impact on the fact that there were fewer agents picking?
No.
And again, did anybody from the lunch relief rule, when that was eliminated, get terminated or lose their job?
No.
Okay. So then I see that you again in Respondents Exhibit Respondents Exhibit 4, you have the different categories of jobs and numbers in gray boxes, right?
Correct.
Okay. And under the lunch it's a 0 now, right?
Correct.
And in 2020 it was 185, correct?
Yes.
And what does that indicate, that change?
That was a change that we made. We eliminated the lunch relief positions off the pick, and we moved those positions into the extra slots.
Okay, so let's go through where those extra slots were. Under station jobs, there's 1,371 station jobs, right?
Correct.
And in the winter pick, there were 1,353, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there were 18 more station jobs from 2020 to 2021?
Correct.
Okay. And then we discussed that you went down 185 because of the lunches, right?
Yes.
And you went down, it looks like 2 under EEU, from 2 to 0?
Correct.
And then you went down about 25 for vacation, from 180 to 155, right?
Correct.
And then RDO relief, that's regular day off relief, that went from 614 to 542, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then under extras, it looks like you went from 217 to 322, right?
Not necessarily, no. If you compare the extras from 2020, it shows 217. So when we added the extras, took the lunch release and added it to the extra pool, it actually equals to 411. So if you take the 322 and add it into the 89, we'll give you the 411. So really,
Now, let me just interrupt you for a second, because there was a question this morning about this. That says minus 89. So can you explain that? Or aren't you supposed to subtract 89 from the 322? What is the 89?
So when, talking with the unions, prior to, I think it was sometime in October, one of the things that we decided to try out in this new pick was to create red line jobs. And so what those red line jobs are, and I know Ms. Basknight talked about it before, typically if there's somebody that's a union release, those would be red line positions. And so it would allow other station agents to pick that job as, like, let's say, a secondary on that job. And so what we did is we decided to expand the red line process and start including people that are in long-term sick positions, or situations. So if a station agent is over 30 days, that are out longer than 30 days, that job would be red line, which would allow the extras to hold that job until that individual comes back. When that individual comes back, that person would then resort back to the extra pool. And so that's why when you see the 89 jobs during the pick, when they picked for the 2021 winter pick, we identified 89 station agents that are not in a full-time status longer than 30 days. And that's why we showed that as a negative 89, because we're now short 89 employees on that extra, because they're now sitting and doing 5-day booth jobs.
I see. So you have 411 extras, but 89 of them are already filling in for somebody?
Exactly. So we can't rely on that group of 89 to utilize as an extra, because they are now sitting in a 5-day job.
But as far as the number of jobs that were able to be picked, those 89 are included in that total?
Exactly. Like I said before, the only number that matters to me is at 2479. As long as there's 2,479 jobs on that pick, that will allow all the incumbents a spot.
So if you look at the black box on the bottom left, there were 2,479 people picking. You had 2390 jobs available, and then the 89 were an additional 89 jobs that somebody was already filling in for someone?
Correct.
Okay, so the total number of jobs that were picked were 2479,
Yes.
and the total number of people picking was 2479?
Correct.
So again, the lunch relief wasn't an elimination of any staff, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay. But those people who were in the lunch relief role were reallocated to other roles,
Correct.
primarily the extras role.
Correct.
And you did that in order to make sure that you had enough coverage to avoid some of the overtime issues you were dealing with?
Correct. It allows more flexibility with the station agents.
Okay. Now, did the union grieve that change, the elimination of the lunch relief role and reallocating them to other roles?
Yes, there was a grievance with this pick.
Okay, and was there a hearing on that?
There was, yes.
And did you attend that hearing?
I did.
Did you testify at that hearing?
I did.
Okay. I'd like to direct you to the Respondent's Exhibit 7, which is already in evidence.
Okay.
It's the decision of the arbitrator for that grievance.
I've got it in front of me.
Do you recognize that document?
I do.
And if you could turn to page 5 of that decision.
Okay.
Beginning at the bottom starting with finally, could you read that into the record, please?
Sure. Finally, I am mindful of the fundamental relationship claim raised by the union. However, I am convinced to the extent it is valid, it fails in light of the authority's right to increase or reduce or eliminate assignments, particularly where, as here, no positions will be lost.
I'm sorry, you read too fast. I'm sorry.
Oh,
A little slow.
where do you want me to start off at?
Start over.
I'll start
The
off.
authority's right to, okay.
Thank you. Finally, I am mindful of the fundamental relationship claim raised by the union. However, I am convinced to the extent it is valid, it fails in light of the authority's right to increase or reduce or eliminate assignments, particularly where, as here, no positions will be lost. Accordingly, the grievance is decided as indicated in this paper.
Okay. So the arbitrator determined that you had the right to move staff around as in your role?
Correct.
Objection. The arbitrator decided they had a right under the contract, not under the law. It's limited to the quote. He's quoting it was a contractual grievance, and he's saying the arbitrator decided you had a right. There's no res judicata, no collateral estoppel here, and we're not suing over the contract. We're suing under the public authorities law. So that question is not. He's citing the decision for something it doesn't say. It says they had the right under the collective bargaining agreement. Judge, you're mute. Judge, you're...
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Hurd, would you like to rephrase your question?
Well, yeah, I can actually get to the point I want to get to. Mr. Santoro, from a factual standpoint, the arbitrator held that as a result of the lunch relief change, no positions would be lost. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Schwartz?
Okay. Mr. Santoro, good afternoon. We've
Good
met
afternoon.
many times before. Just with respect to the last question, the union did not go to the arbitrator over the public authorities law issue, did it?
Say that one more time.
The union did not go to the arbitrator over the public authorities law issue, did it?
I don't believe so.
And Mr. Foy is the head of the MTA, right?
Correct.
And he issued a no hire agreement, a no hire order. Sorry.
There was an absolute hiring freeze, and there is some exceptions on that for critical business needs. Correct.
Okay. And you understand the public authorities law makes it harder to close booths than to eliminate other jobs in the authority. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Mr. Santoro is not an attorney.
I'm going to sustain the objection. Why don't you rephrase your question, Mr. Schwartz?
Does Mr. Foy have the authority withdrawn? Did Mr. Foy's authority just comes from his position as the chief executive officer of the MTA, right?
I'm sorry,
Your
you,
Honor, Mr. Santoro's not.
Hold on.
wait, hello,
Wait.
hello,
Karen,
hello. Sorry, you froze in the middle of the question. Repeat the question, please.
Withdrawn. I wanna go just because it hit me. If you look at Exhibit 4, the authorities Exhibit 4. Now you state that the number of in extras 322. You testified under oath that number is really 411, right?
Yes.
Because you added 185 to that. That would be 511, right?
I don't understand what you're doing.
When you said that there were more than 322 extras, you said there's 322 extras plus the lunch relief people.
No, that's not what he said, Your Honor. That mischaracterizes the testimony. He said that it was plus the 89 red line jobs.
Okay, so there's 411 total jobs for extras, right?
Correct.
And in the year before, there were 217.
Correct.
And in the new as compared between 2020 and 2021, the total the total number of jobs went from 2,542 in 2020 to 2,479 in 2021, right? If you look at the top.
Correct.
And actually, the number of jobs, that's the number of agents picking, right? 2,542 people picked in 2020 and 2,479 picked in 2021, right?
Correct.
Now, there's a black line sort of in the middle, tour book jobs and miscellaneous jobs.
Correct.
Right? And that number is tour book jobs in 2020 was 1,540, and tour book jobs in 2021 was 1,371. Now, that's a loss of about 185 jobs, right?
What I'm following you on the 1540. What was the other number?
In 2021, it says 1371.
Oh, 1371. Okay.
And that's basically, if you subtract the 185, pretty close to the 185, that you consider that the lunch relief jobs were tour book jobs, right?
The lunch relief jobs were lunch relief jobs. Yes.
But they were tour book jobs.
Yes.
And so the number went from 1,540 in 2020 to 1,371 in 2021, right?
Correct.
And the number of miscellaneous jobs, if you go to the right side, in 2020 it was 1,011, and in 2021 it was 1,019.
Correct.
And if we add those numbers together, in 2020 there were 2,551 jobs, right? We had 1,011 with 1,540. And then in 2021, there was 2,479 jobs, right?
No.
It says tour book jobs, 1,371, miscellaneous jobs, 1,019.
Correct.
That equals 2,479, right?
The 1371 is 1,019.
Equals sorry, 2,490. I did my math.
It's 2390.
2,390.
Yes.
Okay, so the number in 2020 was 2,551, and the number in 2021 was 2,390. Right?
Are you asking me to pick jobs?
The number of tour book jobs and miscellaneous jobs added together went from 2,551 in 2020 to 2,390 in 2021, right?
Yeah. If you add
and then if we add in,
If the witness could finish his answer, please.
he answered my question.
No, he was speaking when you interrupted. Go ahead, David.
If we add in,
David, go ahead and finish your answer.
excuse me, Judge Hurd. If we add in,
No, Arthur, he's going to finish his answer. The judge said he could finish his answer.
You're right. He answered. He said yes. He said yes.
Excuse me. I would like the witness to finish his answer, and then you may continue with your question, Mr. Schwartz. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, if you add the tour books, the 1371 and the 1019, I believe that adds up to 2390, but you also have to take in consideration the negative 89. If you add the negative 89 into the 2390, that gives you 2479, and those are all the jobs on the pick book, and those are all the incumbents that are picking. So the pick book reflects the 2479 of all the incumbents.
Okay, so when I started this question, I said there were 2,479 jobs in 2021.
Correct.
And there were 2,551 jobs in 2020. Right?
2542 in 2020.
The piece of paper says total jobs, 2,551.
Correct.
So there were 2,551 jobs in 2020.
No, it's incorrect.
Well, is that what it says on the piece of paper? Total jobs, 2,551?
It says total jobs 2551. Yes, that's correct. But if you look at the 9, that meant we have over 9 jobs. So remember, we use this sheet as our way of balancing the pick book. So we utilize this sheet and we change the pick book to make sure the pick book equals to the 2542. So when we received the summary of 2020 winter pick, we found out that we had 9 too many jobs on that pick. Therefore, we had to remove 9 jobs on that pick to make sure that it equals to the 2542.
All right, so even if we use 2542, so you didn't fill the 9 jobs, you just left them blank?
We would remove those jobs off the pick.
All right. And you didn't hire people to fill those jobs?
No, the only people, the incumbents was 2542. Those were the incumbents that were picking. and the pick book has to reflect the incumbents, and that's why we removed the 9 jobs, the 9 too many jobs on the winter pick, to make sure we had only 2542 jobs on the pick.
All right. So assuming that the number is 2542, there were 2,542 jobs in 2020, right?
Correct.
And there were 2,479 jobs in 2021, right?
Correct.
And that's a reduction of 63 jobs, right?
Correct.
Okay. So there was a reduction of 63 jobs.
Yes.
And now, in the new pick, we use the word reallocation. So you say the people that the employees who used to be able to pick lunch relief now had the option, depending on their seniority, of either picking a booth, maybe they were high enough to pick a booth, right? Or picking extra, right?
Correct.
Or they could pick RDO relief or vacation relief.
Correct.
Although he reduced the number of vacation relief and RDO relief positions, right?
Correct.
So they could pick one of those jobs. If was on Exhibit 4, so you have 155 vacation relief. You have 542 RDO relief, and 411, you say, extras, right?
Correct.
Could any of those people pick to work? Could any of the if the judge doesn't stop this, will any of those people be able to go to a booth and relieve a station agent during their lunch hour?
No.
So you weren't really changing the name of lunch relief. You're eliminating lunch relief, right?
Yes.
So this wasn't a matter of figuring out a way to have more discretion with what an agent could do. You were eliminating a function, right?
Looking at what we have, I removed 185 lunch reliefs, and we reallocated that group to be able to pick extras and increase the extra pool. Yes.
But you reallocated them to other work, not including lunch relief, right?
All work is station agent work. It's not specific to one person. All station agents, and they can do various things.
You didn't. Would you agree with me? Yes or no? No station agent will do lunch relief after January 31st if the judge doesn't issue the injunction.
Correct.
So you didn't change the title of people doing lunch relief. You eliminated the function of a station agent called lunch relief, right?
We eliminated that position on the pick, yes.
And you eliminated the function, right?
Yes, we eliminated the lunch relief off the pick.
And will any station agent in the entire system be relieved during their lunch hour after January 31st unless the judge issues an order?
After January 31st, every station agent that is entitled to receive lunch will receive lunch for their 30-minute lunch period, yes.
Well, every station agent is entitled to receive a lunch, aren't they?
Correct.
And except we have this small group that gets to stay in the booth during lunch and get paid. That's the gain sharing thing, right?
Yes.
And the arbitrator said you had to keep that, right?
Correct.
And that's about 65 booths.
I believe it's less than that. I think it's
a number around there, right? So so you haven't changed the name of lunch relief. You ended the function of lunch relief, correct?
Lunch relief will not be going down the system giving lunches to the 8-hour station agents in the booth. They will not be doing that.
You didn't reallocate the function to another group of employees, right? You eliminated the function, right?
Yes, we eliminated the lunch reliefs.
but you didn't lay off people because you had, it in fact allowed you to use some of those employees to cover what was being covered by overtime, right?
Yes, we eliminated the lunch relief positions to increase the extra pool. So
And that helped cover
flexibility with our agents.
And it helped you cover overtime.
It'll help us cover overtime, correct?
Otherwise, the extras, and you also reduced the number of vacation reliefs and RDO reliefs. Was that also to increase your extra pool?
No.
Are there fewer people that need vacation relief and day off relief?
Yes.
Is that because you changed the staffing hours?
No.
Well, why would that happen?
Well, if you have lunch reliefs, the original 185 lunch reliefs were 5-day pick jobs. So the lunch reliefs were not a 5-day job, it was a 7-day job. So in order to give those RDOs, those lunch reliefs tours still need an RDO because we eliminated the lunch relief jobs. The RDOs is going to be reduced also. So that's why it went down to 542 in 2021.
So some of the people that picked RDO relief and vacation relief would relieve lunch relief people. Is that what you're basically saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's actually, there's more than 185 employees not doing lunch relief. There's an additional group of about, because of covering vacations in RDO, there's an additional group of, there's an additional group of employees that don't have to do that anymore, right?
The individuals that picked the RDO relief or the lunch reliefs, yes, those jobs were also eliminated from the pick.
So the reality is that there were more than 185 lunch relief positions. There were 185 plus the folks that covered them when they were on a day off or when they were on vacation.
Correct.
But now, given the overtime numbers that you were showing us for December, which seemed to get higher as we got around Christmas Day and then sort of go down, with those numbers, they ranged from 40 to 70. 70 right around Christmas Day, but was it around 40? Is it generally your average that there's about 40 people a day?
It depends.
Objection mischaracterizes the testimony. There's an 87, there's a 90, there's a 93,
Your Honor,
there's a 95.
Judge, you're mute.
Sorry, there was another fire engine. Let Mr. Mr. Schwartz finish asking the question. If Mr. Santoro does not understand or is confused by the question, he may ask for clarification.
Would you say that the average, you said these are typical, but the numbers on the sheet that was on that exhibit, whatever it was, the numbers for December 2020 ranged from 1 on December 30th to 90 on December 12th.
Objection mischaracterizes the document.
Well, Your Honor, then we're looking at a different document.
There's 95 on December 17th. There's 93 on December 13th.
Okay, I stand corrected. It ranges from 95 on December 17th to 1 on December 30th. Is that correct?
On the AM tour, yes.
Right, and then there are numbers. Some days there are 48, 35, 38. What would you say is the average, roughly?
I don't have the average. I mean, this is just for the AM tour. If you want to click on the night tour, and you can get a different average and a perspective on a different tour, you can see what we're looking at on the night tour. On the second, we had 100 booths just on the overnight tour alone on overtime. So it depends on the shift, the tour, the day. It's constantly changing.
All right. And if you hadn't eliminated lunch relief, the only way to address this escalating, I'm going to call it escalating overtime situation, would be to hire, right?
With the mandate from the hiring freeze, that's not
asking.
I'm not allowed to right now.
I didn't ask with the hiring freeze. Assuming the hiring freeze wasn't in effect, the only way to deal with this would be to hire, right?
Prior to the hiring freeze, we were hiring, yes.
And has the number gotten higher? This daily number of overtime booths gotten higher because of the hiring freeze?
Not necessarily, no. If you look at the pick between Exhibit 3 and 4, you show it's only at 63 variants between the two pick books. That's not showing 100. It's not a gap of 100 people per tour per day. It's the difference of 63.
Go on.
We have about 17 minutes just to let you know, and I have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask the witness before we conclude today.
I think I've exhausted my questions.
All right, Mr. Hurd, if you have some redirect,
Very
briefly. A couple of minutes for my question.
Yeah, very briefly, and then I'll let you ask your questions. I just wanted to go back to Mr. Santoro. Mr. Schwartz was asking you, and you confirmed that you eliminated the function of lunch relief, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But you didn't eliminate the staff that performed that function, correct?
Correct. Nobody has been laid off. Nobody has been downsized. Nobody has lost their job with the implementation of the 2021 pick.
And the difference between 2020 and 2021 of the number of jobs that were filled, the 2542 to the 2479, that 63 number, you see that?
Yes.
That was due, I believe you testified, to people who retired or resigned or died, correct?
Correct.
Over the course of that year?
Yes.
And it wasn't caused, it didn't have anything to do with eliminating the lunch relief function, right?
Correct.
Go ahead, Your Honor, I don't have anything further.
Thank you so much, counsel. I just have a brief couple of questions relating to what Mr. Hurd and Mr. Schwartz have been saying. So, no station agent will have lunch relief, is that correct?
They will not have a lunch relief, but the station agent is still entitled for their 30-minute lunch. So they will still be getting their 30 minutes.
And except for those that are, I think the word is game changers, who are allowed to stay in the booth during their lunch hours, their lunch periods, where will the other station agents go?
Typically, they've got employee facility rooms at every station. So the station agent, when they go to lunch, they can go to the employee facility rooms. They want to go up to the street level to go to McDonald's or wherever they want to go eat their lunch, they're free to do that with their 30-minute lunch period.
Okay, prior to this change, when a station agent decided to take their lunch period because they were not a game changer, a lunch relief person would come and person that station, that booth, while the station agent was gone, correct?
Correct.
But now when the station agent has their mandatory 30-minute lunch, the booth will be closed.
Correct.
Okay? So no one will be in that booth at that particular station at the time the station agent has gone for their lunch.
Correct.
Okay, so although there's been a reallocation of the station agents to another title, and although they did not lose their job, the ultimate result is that that particular booth will be closed so that some people may not, for 20 minutes or however long, 30 minutes, will not be able to perhaps access that particular entrance or exit of to the station because there would be no one in the booth. Let's say someone who has some sort of physical challenge.
No, everybody has access into the system with or without the station agent in the booth. We've got multiple entrances in multiple stations, so not every entrance has a booth. So if you go to a major complex and there could be 6 to 8 entrances into a station, and not every entrance has a booth. So the majority of the riding public has access to the system without having to see a station agent. So if the station agent's not in the booth, they can, if they need to put more fare on their card, they can use the MVM machines and add money to their Metro card. We've got a new Omni system. They could take their credit card, tap it, and they could enter the system. So our customers still have access to the system.
My final question has not been raised in the papers because, and I have raised it earlier because it didn't come to me until your testimony. How are your customers to be notified about the station agents, the former station agents, leaving the booth, and that the fact that there will be no one personing the booth while they're gone? I understand what you're saying. People still have access to the machines, using their cards to get through the turnstile or through the doors, but is there a plan to let the ridership know that every day for the half hour of 12 to 12:30 there will be no individual within the booth? Is that a part of
Yeah, we have discussed that and haven't really came to a concrete decision on that. That is an option to put that on the booth. There's other times when there's not a station agent in the booth. When a station agent has to take a comfort, they've got to use facilities for whatever reason, they will exit the booth, and the booths will still be empty and not have a station agent multiple times throughout the day, not just during that lunch period. So there's agents that take up to 20, 25 minutes on a comfort when there's nobody in the booth at that time too.
Understood. But this is a little different. Okay, that's the end of my inquiry. Mr. Hurd, Mr. Schwartz, do you have anything to say in closing today?
Yes, Your Honor, because I think that after we get through all the numbers, the questions you asked are the key questions. The way that the papers were framed by the authority is that they were just reallocating the function, but the fact is they've eliminated the function, and this is a new change. That each booth is going to be closed for 1.5 hours each day, 3 half-hour shifts, which is not true about comfort. Comfort, to the extent that agents taking a comfort relief is a closure of a booth, it existed before. It's existed probably, since you and I, or I was a little boy. You're younger than me.
You never know. I'm much older than I look.
And so that wouldn't be a change that required a public hearing. That's an existing practice. Nobody has been. It isn't a matter, because the way the papers were framed, it made it seem like, all we did was change their job title, so now they're extras, but it's just a reallocation of the job function. The job function was eliminated. They had a reason to do it. We're not saying they don't have a reason to do it. Their reason to do it is because they want to save money, particularly during a period where they're not hiring and overtime is going up. But that doesn't obviate. In fact, the case law, the discussion in the Reuter case by the appellate division specifically addresses the legislative history where the authority said, this would keep us from having to take actions which, in a time of financial need, where we needed to save money. And the appellate division said, no, that's not. That was rejected when the law was first passed in 1977. We have an affidavit in our papers from Congressman Nadler. Oh, by the way, Congressman Espaillat wanted to be on today. He has COVID. So,
yes, I heard that.
and he sent his apologies. But Congressman Nadler, when he was an assembly member, gave us an affidavit. Actually, he gave us the affidavit when he was a congressman. But that was expressly understood by the legislature when they passed this law, that no matter what the purpose was, no matter how bad the transit authority was hurting, they needed to go through the 45-day public hearing process and a vote of the MTA board in order to close booths. And that's just the law. And this is, no matter how much the authority, and I didn't put in the manual that talked about how station agents deal with emergency calls, although Mr. Kelly's affidavit talks about it. But how they have to deal with the emergency calls, how they have to deal with shutting off the third rail if there's a fire, how they have to deal with evacuating people if there's a mass evacuation needed in a station. All of that is why station agents are important, and in fact, there is at least one booth in every station at this point. But now there's going to be, every station is going to be closed for 3.5 hours a day. And the authority has the power to do that if they follow the statute. And they didn't follow it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schwartz. Mr. Hurd, you got the last word.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our understanding of what the purpose of today's hearing was from Tuesday, and you reiterated it today, was a question of whether it was a reallocation of staff or an elimination of staff. And you correctly pointed out that if it was an elimination of staff, then the public authority law might come in and a hearing might have been necessary, because as Mr. Nadler's memo says, when the law was created, it was designed to prevent eliminating personnel and eliminating people's jobs in lieu of technology or in favor of technology. And I think the testimony from all three witnesses today demonstrated that it was not an elimination of staff by changing the lunch relief. Contrary to what Mr. Schwartz just said, we never argued it was a reallocation of the function. We always argued it was not, it was a reallocation of the staff, not the function. We freely admit that the lunch relief job has been eliminated, and the reasons for that is so that those people could cover a broader spectrum of positions in the hopes of having fewer overtime and fewer stations that don't have staff because somebody called in sick or something like that. So I think it's very clear that from the testimony from all three witnesses that no staff were eliminated, and therefore the public authorities law just doesn't apply. The other issues related to the safety concerns in the New York City human rights law, we've briefed in our papers, and this hearing wasn't about that. But I think it's very clear that the law says that what Mr. Santoro has done by simply moving his staff around in order to accommodate some issues that he's dealing with, some financial issues, is well within his rights. That's what the arbitrator held on the grievance, and it applies equally here. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you all so very much for participating today. Before we commenced this morning, I asked that either one of you, the petitioner or respondent, or both of you, please order the transcript and upload it to NICEF so that I may have a complete record of what occurred today in determining my decision. Just let us know how you're going to do that, because I'm going to start working on it as soon as possible. Thank you also. Yes, sir.
How do we contact the court reporter?
I'll give you my
right
email.
there.
khmangano@gmail.com.
All right, I'll talk to Mr. Hurd about how to order it. Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone. You have a pleasant and safe weekend. Be well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judge.
Bye, thank you.